Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to the Self Growth Lab, spreading hope and inspiration for your transformation so that you can live the life of your dreams. And welcome to episode 2 of your success journey. So, first of all, I just wanted to apologize for last week. I said that I would air the episode 1 at 3 o'clock, and unfortunately, it took longer to load than I thought. So, I think it only aired at about 10 past 3 or so. Rookie mistake. Sorry about that. But yeah, just to quickly recap, episode 1, we spoke about some powerful principles for success, and I mentioned the ABCs for lasting success. A was to design your dream life, and then B was to understand what blocks us from achieving our goals and from success, and then C was how do I maintain my lasting success. And these are things we're going to look at throughout this series. I also suggested your dream life exercise, where you were to daydream for the week and just allow yourself to be in a future that felt good and not worry about money, just don't worry about how it's going to come about. Just fantasize about this beautiful future that you're wanting. So I hope you enjoyed that task. I hope you had fun with it, and I hope you're still practicing it and just kind of reading through it and sitting in those feelings and just allowing yourself to enjoy that. And we're going to come back to that in a future episode. So just keep doing what you're doing with that. And then also, I just wanted to say that I hope you've had a wonderful week as well in general since we last saw each other. If not, that's okay too. We have ups and downs in life. It's about how we learn to deal with the things that challenge us. So people often feel bad, I think, about not achieving their goals, right? And they think perhaps it's a motivation problem. We touched on this last time. Or they feel like they just can't do it. So they will either, stop and start and keep trying and keep failing, or they'll just kind of give up and they'll just quit and be like, nah, this is not for me. I can't achieve these things. So today we're going to look at why that happens. All right. So we're going to move on to step 2, and step 2 is simply called learn about yourself. So the great teachers that I've studied over the years, going back thousands of years, have said, know thyself. And that is so important to start developing a relationship with ourselves and getting to know ourselves, because I think a lot of us weren't taught to do that growing up. We weren't taught how to have a healthy self-love and support ourselves and validate ourselves. So that's another key principle we're going to look at in the series, is a healthy self-love. So step 2 has 2 parts. There's an A and a B. A is the who factor, what I call the who factor, and then B is your inner system, which is the mind-body-life connection I have mentioned. So let's dive right in. So remember my teacher I spoke about with the bright blue shorts, laugh out loud, sorry, no judgment, and the powerful statement he made about doers and thinkers in the world. He said that there are doers and thinkers in the world, and some people will do and some people will just think about doing, right? So part A, the who factor to me is about having that willingness to be a doer, to get up and do the things and not a thinker, just a thinker in life. We need both, but we want to actually take action, okay? And to work the 7 steps properly, I think it's really important to develop these 3 qualities of the who factor if you don't have them already. So the who in the who factor stands for willing, W for willing, H for honesty, and O for open-mindedness. If I really want to learn about myself and understand who I am at a deeper level, these qualities can really help me to unpack that. And they work together to help us to create better results in general. Okay, so repeat after me. W, I am willing to do the things to achieve the goals that I want to achieve. H, I'm willing to be honest with myself and others when needed. And then O, say I am open-minded to try new ideas. All right, give yourselves a high five. Well done. Next up, I want to do a quick exercise. So I encourage you to just sit back, relax, and listen with an open mind. and just see if what I'm going to say is something that you've resonated with, or that you resonate with, or that you've experienced before. So you can even close your eyes if you want, if it will help you just to relax. All right, so you decide one day, or you decided one day, that you wanted to achieve something. You wanted more from life, right? So maybe you wanted that new shiny bike or a car. So your goal was to earn more money, right? Or maybe you wanted to be a captain of your sports team. So your goal was to practice your sport more and learn a bit more about leadership. Or maybe you wanted to do better in your studies. So you decided that your goal would be to spend a bit less time on your cell phone and use that time for studying instead. Or maybe you wanted to help out in your community or at home. So you either spent an hour, like on a Saturday, helping out maybe at a community garden, that was your goal, or you wanted to set aside that extra hour to study, that was your goal there. And you told yourself, I am going to achieve this goal, right? And you felt motivated and you were like excited about this new goal. And for a few days it worked. You got up and you did the things and you felt good about it, and you were moving forward. You were like becoming a doer. You started researching more about money, or you got up and you practiced and you started learning about leadership, or you spent an hour less on your phone and you actually did that extra study time. Or you washed the dishes at home and maybe went to go and actually physically help out at the community center. But then you started slipping. You missed one day, maybe, and then another day. And then, like, a whole week goes by, and all of a sudden, you're not doing the things you were going to do or you were doing to achieve those goals. And then suddenly you're back where you started, right? And you felt maybe a bit disappointed or frustrated, and you decided, okay, let me try again. And it goes well for a while. You get up and you start doing the things, but then you start slipping again. And then you start thinking things like maybe I need more motivation, or maybe I just am a little bit lazy, or maybe you think that you can't do it. This is maybe just who you are. Now, if you've experienced anything like this before, I can tell you for free, you are not alone. And I think this is what most people don't realize. And this is what I spoke about last week as well. It was never just a motivation problem that was blocking you from achieving these goals. It was actually an inner system problem. And to understand this better, we're going to look at the second big idea I was never taught in my youth, and that is the mind body life connection. So, part B of step 2 is your inner system, the mind body life connection. This is how your inner system affects what's happening outside of us. So, let me start by telling you this: life is not random. Things are not just happening because. The results that we are getting in life are determined by what's happening within us. In our inner system, there are many, many, many processes that's happening through our mind or in our mind all day, every day, and these processes influence how we behave and how we act, right? And how we behave and how we act determines the results we get in life. So I'll show you just a very brief idea of what's happening within the inner system. So I like to look at our inner system as like a flow, right? So we have the foundation, which is the current state of being. How do I feel right now? And my core beliefs. And this is kind of the foundation of what drives our results. It causes a downstream effect. So, first of all, what are core beliefs? Well, our core beliefs, if you don't know, are things that we believe about ourselves to be true, what we believe about others to be true, and what we believe about the world around us to be true. And together, our state and our core beliefs influences how we're thinking, what we're feeling, which impacts our choices and our decisions, which impacts how we behave or act, and that is going to give us our results. So if we have a limiting core belief like I'm not good enough, we're going to probably get more negative results. Whereas if we have a core belief that I am good enough, you're going to see more positive results in your life. So some of these core beliefs are helpful and some are not helpful. And we all have them. All right. We've all just got to figure out which core beliefs are serving us, which are helpful and which are not, and which are the ones we want to change. But here's the good news. Core beliefs are just thoughts, really, at the end of the day, that we've thought over and over again. I think you might have heard that somewhere along the line. And we have the power to change them. So that's the good news. So I like to think like we don't find it difficult to change between apps on our phone, right? And it's the same with our thoughts. It's not that difficult to change between the thoughts that we're having. So we can see, are these thoughts helping me or are they putting me down? And then we can make a choice to change them. So I like to just think of that when I'm struggling sometimes with some limiting thoughts. All right, so we just need to be willing to do a bit of work to change these thoughts. It does take a bit of awareness and a bit of practice to get used to, choosing better feeling thoughts. But I just want you to know that there's no need to panic or stress about it if you have these kind of limiting negative thoughts. It's okay. If they're unhelpful, you're going to learn how to interrupt them and change them little bit by little bit. So that's quite exciting, right? And here's just another quick list, some examples of some more limiting and negative and positive core beliefs. So you can maybe write those down if you want to, or just take a screenshot, but they're good to run through and have a look at and just see if you can resonate with any of them. So moving forward, I'm going to use like a tree analogy and a forest analogy to explain our inner system. It's a nice way to look at, different layers within our minds. So there's obviously no actual forest in our minds, right? And I'm sure you're thinking, well, duh, but that's quite obvious, Niggy. But I once misunderstood a teacher at school, true as nuts, when I was in primary school. I thought she had said, you shouldn't put anything smaller than your elbow in your ear. And let's just say I think she had a good giggle when she saw my test answers about that question. So just to be clear, there's no trees in our mind, right? This is just an analogy. And I'm just going to explain core beliefs a bit more from this analogy. Okay, but first let me just explain, where do core beliefs come from, right? I studied quite a bit of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, and he's a biologist who's been studying the human body from a cellular level upwards, I think, for over 30 years, something like that. It's quite interesting. And he said that, up until about the age of 7 years old, the child is in a state of hypnosis. And the reason for that is there are thousands of programs that we need to download in order to function as a member of a family or a member in society. And we just absorb all of this information from watching others around us, right? And some of it's good, some of it's not so good. That's the problem, though. No one's watching the information that we're taking in, but we're taking it in regardless, right? So from all of this information then that we've absorbed, we tend to build beliefs. And as I've said, some are helpful and some are unhelpful. And it's sometimes difficult to try and figure out what beliefs we've actually downloaded because we don't really remember things from, when we were so young. But we can pick them up in other ways, and we'll have a look at that as well. The important thing, again, just to remember is that we can change them. It's no one's fault, really. We've just copied and modeled what's been happening around us. And that's just the way the human body evolves, the mind and everything and how we grow. So I'll give you an example. Story time. I heard this on a TED talk once, and I might be a little bit off in the actual story, but I think you'll catch the drift. So little Johnny goes to the shop with his dad, and he's younger than 7, let's say he's about 5 years old. and they're standing in the queue to pay. And the queues are generally packed with sweets and toys and all kinds of things that are so hard for the kids to see and reach. And anyway, Dad's had a really bad day. He's not a bad person, he's just had a bad day. And little Johnny's like tugging on his pants the whole time. And he's like, I want the sweet. And he wants the sweet. And Dad's on the phone and he's irritated and frustrated. And he's like trying to stop little Johnny from nagging him. And Johnny just keeps on. He's a kid. He doesn't know Dad's having a bad day and under pressure and all of that. And eventually Dad loses his temper a little bit. And he kind of yells at little Johnny, no, you're not having a sweet. You weren't a good boy today. Or words to that effect. You haven't been a good boy today. And little Johnny's eyes go big. And in that moment, he's not used to his dad shouting at him. And in that moment, he just imprints that emotion and those words of his father. And he builds a belief that he's not good enough and he's not deserving. So life goes on, and little Johnny struggles a bit in school. He leaves school. He ends up in a job, but he never, ever excels in life. He never does better than average, I guess, maybe even below average. And the reason is because little Johnny imprinted this core belief that I'm not good enough and I'm not deserving. So he never, ever believed that he was deserving or good enough of being successful. I hope that makes sense. It's quite a powerful thing, and it was just a moment in time that shaped him. But this is the beauty of the modern world, where science and psychology has unpacked this, and we understand today why people struggle. And this is the reason for the success series as well. It's just to show you a bit of a guideline and a way to get, like I said before, from where you are to where you want to be, and overcome these core beliefs that are blocking us from achieving what we want. So I hope that helps explain a little bit more about this, but we will still also unpack this as we go along too. Okay, so if you look at this diagram of the tree, this is the roots to results model. We see that our core beliefs are like the roots, right? So this is what I mentioned, what I believe about myself, others, and life. And then that causes me to create conditional rules. So if we move up to the trunk, these are the unconscious rules that I live by, or survival rules. And then we move to the branches, which is our limiting beliefs, our thought patterns. They can be helpful or unhelpful. So these are the thoughts and assumptions that are created by the rules that we make for ourselves without really realizing it. And then we've got the leaves, which are our emotions and feelings. So what I feel when these beliefs are activated, and then this causes the fruit, our behaviors, actions, and choices. Well, choices come first, yeah. And what I do because of my beliefs and my emotions. And that then gives me the harvest, which is the results, the outcomes, what those actions create in my life. So we looked at core beliefs and an analogy there. So although they are often hidden from our conscious awareness, they can influence everything that grows above them. So it's like that downstream effect that I was talking about. So if we look at the trunk and the conditional rules again, once a core belief develops, the mind tries to protect us. So to do this, it creates these rules. And these rules are often unconscious, and they usually sound like I must, or I should, or I have to, or if I, then. And these are called conditional rules or survival rules. For example, core belief, I am not enough. The conditional rule would be, I must be perfect. Another example of a core belief is, people will reject me. The conditional rule there is, I must keep everyone happy. Another example, core belief, the world is unsafe. The conditional rule formed, I must stay in control. At one stage, these rules may have helped us to cope, protect ourselves, or gain acceptance, right? And the challenge here is, though, that many of us continue living by these rules long into adulthood after they've stopped serving us. So then we look at the branches again. The conditional rules then create smaller beliefs about ourselves, other people, and different situations. These are the branches of the tree. For example, if we have a core belief, I am not enough, the rule, I must be perfect, then the branches can be things like, I'll never be good enough. I can't make mistakes. If I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't start. Other people are better than me. I always fall short. And these limiting beliefs spread into every area of our life, including relationships, health, finances, career, confidence, and our personal growth. So you can see that one root can create many branches, and there are hundreds of limiting beliefs. So from there, we look at the leaves again, which are our emotions and feelings. So our beliefs influence how we feel, right? And the leaves represent our emotional experience. For example, fear, anxiety, shame, guilt, frustration, overwhelm, sadness, hopelessness, or helpful feelings of confidence, hope, gratitude, excitement, motivation, and peace. And emotions are important because, they often signal that a belief system has been activated, and they give us clues as to what's happening below the surface there at that root. And then the fruit, the choices, the behaviors, and the actions. So our emotions, as I've mentioned before, these influence the choices we make. Those choices show up as behaviors and actions, and this is really the fruit of the tree. For example, going to the gym or skipping it, setting a boundary or staying silent, applying for the opportunity or avoiding it, saving money or spending impulsively, having a difficult conversation or avoiding conflict, taking action on a goal or procrastinating. The fruit is what we do, what we experience. It's a visible expression of everything happening underneath the tree. And then obviously the harvest, the results and outcomes. Let's look at things like a helpful harvest, which would be better health, stronger relationships, increased confidence, financial growth, greater well-being, personal success, versus an unhelpful harvest, which would be poor health, things like burnout, debt, missed opportunities, ongoing conflict, and feeling stuck. So as you can see from everything I've said today, the harvest is not random. It is usually the natural outcome of the fruit being produced by the tree, and then obviously the core beliefs there at the root causing all of this. I hope that makes sense. All right, so your task for this week, if you're up for the challenge, is to keep a little notebook with you of sorts, maybe just a small book in your pocket, and start paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling throughout the day over the next week. So I call it the Watch Your Bob exercise. So I give my thoughts and feelings a name. It's called Bob. It's just like random. And I like to pay attention to what I'm thinking and feeling because I know that that is tied back to these core beliefs. And if I know what I'm thinking and feeling, I can then work to understand what is the core belief that I need to shift. So if you can just do that over the next week, just maybe ask yourself right on the front of the book or in the first page, you can just write there, Watch Your Bob exercise, and then write down 2 questions. What am I thinking and how is it making me feel? And the second question is, what am I feeling and how is it making me think? And just start paying attention and jotting down as you remember throughout the day. So this is not an exercise to judge yourself or get angry with yourself about these limiting thoughts or these negative thoughts. It's just to observe what is actually going on in your mind. And you might be surprised or even a little bit shocked as to the amount of negative thoughts you have. I think that, as a society, most of us have downloaded so much negative thought patterns, and we just tend to copy that. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're going to learn how to overcome those. And in the interim, if you want, what you can do is when you catch yourself in those thoughts, you can just choose a better feeling thought. Like if you catch yourself thinking, oh, I can't do this, just be like, pause for a second and be like, but hang on a second. I haven't done enough research on this. Maybe I can actually do this. Or maybe I could ask somebody for a bit of guidance or a bit of help, and then I could achieve what I wanted here. So it's about finding better feeling thoughts and then taking better actions really to get better results. And you can start practicing that now if you want as well. So once again, thank you for your time. And in closing, I just want to say I hope this helps with your success journey. And also, I did mention that I would have that chapter available this week. So if anyone or if you are interested in the chapter, you're welcome to purchase it. Chapter 1, it will be in the comments. The link will be in the comments, and it's like a nice little workbook where you can do some exercises, and it's going to be a beautiful summary of everything we've learned in episode 1. So enjoy, and I hope you'll have a blessed, beautiful week further. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you next week again.